Hello. Ah! Welcome. Welcome. I'm sorry. Welcome to this lovely evening. Tuesday evening. In a lovely summery week. It's very warm outside. How are you all faring? I myself am doing quite good. I thought this week was going to be hell, and it's a little bit less hell than I initially planned. Though it's not over yet. There's still a lot coming. Coming! But yeah, besides that, we're doing pretty good. Hope you're doing good as well. Bum 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 bum. Yes, hello. Welcome, welcome. Tonight we're continuing Katawa Shoujo. It's a fun and interactive visual novel. Yeah, visual novel. And our choices haven't had effect yet, but they will in the future. Probably. Most likely. But yeah, because I'm just gonna switch. There we go. I forgot how terrible the thing is. Okay. Load. June 8th. My morning alarm goes off and Okay, thank you. Sorry, loud noises outside. My morning alarm goes off and I flail about uselessly for a while until I remember that I decided to give morning runs another shot. I don't know if it was my greatest idea, but I am determined to keep going. This is about my health, after all. Sure, things haven't been great lately for me, but that hasn't made existence so intolerable that I'm not going to try everything I can to stay healthy. Besides, it's all about asserting some kind of control over this thing, right? If I can manage that, well, I can manage anything. At least, that's what I keep telling myself. Once again, it would appear that I'm not alone to run. Emmy has apparently been here for some time. It looks like she's already worked up a good sweat. Just when the hell does she come down here anyway? Oh, it's you! I'm surprised to see you again. And why is that? Well, not many people actually manage to come back for a second try. She frowns, seemingly annoyed by a passing thought. Like the rest of the track team, for instance. Still, it was only supposed to be on a volunteer basis, so it's not that big of a shock. And I guess it's pretty early in the morning. A shrug, and suddenly it appears as she'd forgotten what she was talking about. The frown disappears entirely, and she seems to snap back to her previous train of thought. So, come on then. What? You're here to run, right? Well, yes. So come on. I find myself suddenly grabbed and yanked onto the track. Things seem to be set things seem to be set on mirroring yesterday's run. That is, I seem to be struggling while Emmy moves with an effortlessness that I find enviable. It's extremely bothersome to be easily worn out. I know I should be patient, work towards things gradually, but it's difficult to stay positive about this. We round the track and start on our second lap. Emmy seems to have grown impatient keeping pace with me and begins to pull away. This is where I gave out yesterday. Will I be able to do more? No, I'm not gonna die here. Not yet. I let Emmy go on her own pace, and she doesn't show mercy, pulling half a lap ahead of me in an instant. I don't blame her. I mean, it's not as if I'm really putting up any sort of real fight out here, is it? Instead, I'm just running at a steady pace, which is what should be doing, right? There's no need to go pushing my limits at this stage of the game. God, is this even worth it? As we finish the second lap, I break off again. Emmy keeps going, and it almost seems to me that she's disappointed. Well, that's stupid. I don't have anything to prove to her. Come to think of it, I've got nothing to prove to myself either. I'm just fine the way I am. And what I'm not in is a runner. This was probably a bad idea. Maybe there's something else I could do instead of this. Getting up early sucks anyway. There's gotta be some other way to keep healthy. Walking maybe. Nice afternoon walks. Yeah, that sounds good. Running isn't for me. I wave to Emmy and head back into my room. I'll think of something else later. Back in my room, the first thing I see is a familiar row of medication bottles lined up the top of my dresser, and it makes me depressed, as usual. It's annoying. I thought I was okay. I thought I had made peace with this thing. Gotten over it. But what I really did, I allowed myself to forget that I have a problem. Being here really reminds me of the reality, and trying to fight against it just hurts. Reflecting on it is only going to do so much. I've done this before, for months. It seems like it's time to get over it. If I allow myself to forget that my life is definitely not going to be as long as those of others, I won't get anywhere. My life may be different from others, but it's a life in progress. That is how I'll rationalize it. I down the usual handful of pills, trying to push the sudden dreary feeling out of my head. Then I prepare to head for class early, as usual. As I step into the hallway, I notice Kenji coming around the hallway corner, stealthily making his way over to his own room. With a large bag, as he sneaks past me, soundlessly like a ninja hiding in plain sight, I call out to him. Hey! He jumps at the sound of my voice. Oh, hey man! I didn't notice you there. I'm really tired. I think it's more like he didn't see me, but that's not the issue. Where have you been this early? Shopping? Nah, I wasn't shopping. Sometimes I have to visit the math teacher. Yeah, I figured it would be a good idea to find out when the next exam is, since he tells you in advance if you want. So then, what's in the bag? I thought I'd go shopping while I was outside. I need supplies to continue the fight against the vast feminist conspiracy. Okay. I thought you didn't go outside. I wear a hat now. I decide not to point out that he's not wearing a hat. An awkward silence settles between us, and then Kenji breaks it by pushing his door open slowly, releasing a creaking sound into the air that only makes the moment seem more awkward. He sets the bag down inside his room and then closes the door. I'm surprised you went out of your way to find out the test date. Trying to take advantage of an opportunity to study is pretty diligent. I never study. Oh. I just wanted to know when the next test day was. I'm going to take it, duh. I need to know so I know what day I can't afford to skip class. It usually sends out updates on that crap by phone, so I had to step out and check up on it. And why do we have to go out? You can get it on your phone. I don't carry a phone. What do you mean you don't carry a phone? You mean you just leave it at home? Nah, I don't use phones. I don't have a phone. Phones, I have no phone. Why don't you have a phone? How do you know? Can you not have a phone? No phone at all? No phone? I just don't like phones. Actually, I'm scared of them. I don't know why. I think it's some kind of repressed trauma. But basically, when I hear a phone, I get nervous. It's my darkest secret. I have two theories. Either I have some fear of receiving some undefined, ominous, life-altering doom call, or I was beaten with a phone in the past. Beaten so badly I can't remember it. Beaten in the head? Well, where else could you get beaten with a phone and that would make you unable to remember it? The ass? I mean... Unexpectedly logical, I feel depressed now. Sensing this conversation is more or less over, Kenji opens his door again and prepares to head inside. Yeah, I'm going to sleep, dude. Have a good one. Class is going to start in like 20 minutes. I already did something for today. Too tired to go to school. Hey, you need some lip balm? I accidentally bought two because I thought the store had started selling individual AA batteries. Thanks, but no thanks. Whatever, man. He swiftly enters his lair, finally letting me go to class. For a change, I am not among the first ones to come to morning class. Instead, almost everyone seems to be here already. I recognize most of my class by their face by now, though the names still escape me. The class goes on lazily. I think I'm starting to get into the rhythm of school. I've even stopped worrying about taking notes and being overly attentive. The first days I was pretty high-strung in class. Muto finishes his lecture about electricity early, but continues without a pause about the festival. So, as you know, the festival's on the day after tomorrow. I hope everyone's projects are going to be successful this year. Have a good time, but also come Sunday, please keep the meaning of this festival in your minds. Games of fried food? Everyone bursts out in laughter, and so do I. Yes, thank you, Mikado. But what I meant more was the remainder of his sentence is buried beneath the ring of the lunch bells, and everyone starts packing their things. Muto deliberates for a moment, but since almost nobody seems to pay attention anymore, he gives up and sits down. It's crowded in the hallway, or as crowded as hallways in schools in this school probably get. Most of the students seem to be heading down for the cafeteria. Hisao! I'm going to make a one-time only super extra special lunch offer. Emmy's homemade lunchboxes and the privilege of enjoying them in private with two bombshell beauties. Her overly flirtatious sales pitch echoes in the hallway, a remarkable feat since it's full of people. Emmy strikes a very confident-looking pose, as an attempt to one-up her own ridiculousness, puffing out a very modest chest and making the V victory sign with her hand. Sounds delicious. To what do I owe the honor of being invited? You stood there looking really lost and sad, so I thought you could use some company. That's probably the most depressing reason imaginable. So how about it? You're really lonely and would eat that awful cafeteria food all alone otherwise. Eh, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Sure, I'll have your lunch offer, with pleasure. Let's go to the roof. The roof? Why the roof? Because that's where we eat lunch. And if I don't get up there, then she'll probably start to wander off, and then I know she'll just go hungry because she never packs lunch for herself. Who will? Come with me. Without answering my question or waiting for a response, she grabs me by the arm and drags me through the hallway. I attempt to make conversation on the way. Why do you have extra lunch? Emmy smiles guiltily. Actually, it's yesterday's lunch. I slipped in a run at lunch. I forgot to eat it. The stairway to the roof is a little dilapidated. Dilapidated, but it's clearly been used recently. At the top of the stairs is a door, completely with a missing padlock. I wonder who the interpreted individual was that removed the lock. Emmy shoves the door open and steps beaming into the sunlight. Suddenly, a tall, dark stranger appears out of nowhere, standing imposingly in front of us. Emmy flinches back, almost falling back down the stairs. Hi. Yipes! Huh. You scared me, Rin. Wait, isn't she... Hello. Noticing that Rin is speaking to me, Emmy looks curiously at me. You two know each other? I look confusedly at Emmy. She's that friend of yours? Rin has turned her gaze towards the cloud drifting above the school. I didn't know you knew this person, Emmy. The awkward silence lasts only for a few seconds until Emmy lets out a tiny giggle, shrugging the coincidence off. I find it so. If you know him, that's just better. Oh, does that mean I don't get food? Or did you invite him for lunch without the lunch? Neither. I have food for 3. Nice thinking. They walk to the other end of the roof while I stay at the clock tower for a while, taking in the atmosphere. There's nobody else here but us. I guess the roof is not as popular as it is in other schools. A few rundown benches and tables are scattered around the edges, perhaps in an attempt to make the rooftop look less desolate. The small pebbles covering the roof rattle beneath our feet. I peek through the chain link fence and take a look at the school grounds and beyond. Students are strolling in pairs, and groups around the quadrangle and at the cafeteria. A few delivery trucks are driving past the school towards the convenience store nearby. Somewhere a watchdog barks at the passerby. Somehow, when I look towards the town center, the small town feel strikes me very strongly, almost palpably. The hectic lifestyle of big metropolises seem so far away and foreign here. Nobody has to run to catch a bus like their life depended on it, or get their senses overloaded by the neon lights and traffic jams. I feel surprisingly optimistic about this new life of mine. looking at my new hometown, even if it's going to be mine for only a short year. Finding out about my illnesses and having to move away from home all came so suddenly. I haven't had time to think about how I feel about it. When I step out of the shadow of the clock tower to the open, I feel warmth touching my back. The sun shines from a perfectly clear cerulean sky. A cool breeze sweeping over the rooftop makes me shiver, but only briefly. The wind carries the scent of trees and flowers, not smog and car exhaust like it used to just a few weeks ago. Emmy settles on the bench with Rin in tow and produces one big and two small lunchboxes from her bag. Come on, Isao. What are you waiting for? She's beckoning me to join them, making room on the already small bench. I seat myself on the corner of the bench to take as little space as possible. It's pretty much cramped, but somehow all three of us fit on it. Impressive view. Emmy surprises a giggle and places the lunchbox in front of Rin, and hands another lunchbox to me. Here you go, lunch as promised. Homemade, no less. I'm impressed. Wow, thanks. Looks really good. Thanks. I make it myself, when I can. The conversation dies off as I set about the business of feeding myself. Taking a few bites, I glance up and notice Rin deftly opening the lunchbox and popping a forkful in her mouth. Forkful of food into her mouth, using only her feet. Even though I've seen it before, I can't help but be impressed at her dexterity. It's also a reminder of the sort of place I am in right now. Will I ever get used to the sights of such as this? I can't decide if getting used to such a thing would be a good thing or a bad thing, either. Does getting used to this place mean that I'm giving up on being a normal person? Or does it just mean that I'm becoming more understanding about those around me? I'm distracted from my thoughts by the sight of Emmy tearing into her lunchbox as if it had insulted her ancestors. You seem pretty hungry. Emmy looks up, mouth half full, and swallows before nodding. My morning run always works up an appetite. Which is great, because then I burn through lunch pretty quickly. Helps me keep my girlish figure. What would happen if you lose it? Would you become a man? I very nearly choke on my lunch, trying not to laugh. It's figure of speech. Does your figure have to run in the mornings too? Do you always talk like this? Talk like what? I think that answers my question. Never mind. So, I struggle to think of small talk and settle on the obvious question. How'd you two meet? Rin seems content to let Emmy answer this question. Someone in the housing department thought we'd complement each other well, so we were assigned rooms next to each other. Complement each other? Like shoes and a suit. Huh? Emmy giggles at my confusion. Put all of us together and we got all our limbs, get it? Ah. So I started helping Rin get ready in mornings, and that was that. I mean, you can't help someone get dressed every morning and not get along. I see. Rin chooses this moment to interject. I have trouble with shirts. Right, that seems fairly obvious. Really? Kind of. This isn't helping, but at least Emmy seems to find the whole thing funny. That combined with the fact that Rin is genuinely curious makes me feel slightly better and yet confused. I mean, you've got no arms. So putting on the shirt seems like one of those things that would be difficult? You know what? I'm just going to stop talking right now. It'll save me a lot of trouble in the long run. Rin nods in what I suspect is meant to be a sage manner. I see. The conversation dies as I turn around my attention back to my lunch. It's really quite good. Amy finishes her lunch first and makes a contented noise. Ah, that was good. And she pushes herself with cleaning up her lunchbox. Rin speaks up. I'm thirsty. Oh, I almost forgot about that. Sorry. With a flourish, she reaches into her bag and removes a trio of lunch juice boxes. She tosses one that appears to be cranberry juice, me one that appears to be cranberry juice, onto Rin that appears to be some kind of strawberry milk, completed with pink color scheme, and keeps an equally pink box of some kind of fruit punch for herself. Rin dexterously stabs the straw through the top of her box and begins to drink. I'm once again impressed by how flexible she is. But this time I keep my comment to myself. Somehow I don't think either Emmy or Rin are the sorts of people who think twice about the way they work around their particular disabilities. Rin especially so. Indeed, she gives off an impression of being entirely unaware that she's missing any limbs at all. Whether or not that's conscious decision or whether or not that's a conscious decision is another matter. I'm honestly not sure. So, Hisao, do you like it up here? It's quite nice actually. I like high places for the view. Thanks for inviting me up here. And for the lunch too. Emmy grins a 1000-watt grin, pleased by the response I suppose. No problem. Feel free to eat it with us next time too, okay? I won't make you lunch, but you can bring your own up here. No lunch service? I don't know. Emmy looks mock offended. Trying to take advantage of my good nature? The nerve. She giggles. Well, if that's your answer, I guess me and Rin will just keep eating our lunches all alone. I'm suddenly assaulted by the most heart-rending puppy dog eyes I've ever seen as Emmy pouts. I was kidding. Jeez. I'd love to eat lunch up here again. A good location, and the company's okay too. Rin frowns a bit at my declaration of okay, but seems to be happy enough that I've accepted her invitation. I guess that makes us friends now. Or at least acquaintances. The lunch bell rings, signaling a return downstairs. Rin, you didn't finish your lunch again. I wasn't that hungry. If you don't eat more, you're going to fade away. Rin shrugs as if this is an acceptable risk. Come on, we'd better get going. The three of us head down the stairs together. The afternoon class passes. Once again, I find myself without a plan for something to do after school, so I head to the library to return a couple of books I finished reading. Walking inside, I see that there are about as many students here as there were on Tuesday, all the more evident from the almost total silence enveloping the room. As I drop the books I borrowed into the return slot in the counter, Yuko suddenly pops up from behind it, quite startled from the banging they made as they hit a trolley next to her. Sorry, Yuko. Didn't mean to startle you. No, that's fine. It happens a lot. I'm used to it now. Can I help you? It's okay. I think I know where everything is. Thanks anyway. I suppose I'll grab another book or two while I'm here. There's not much else to do. And after reading so much during my stay in the hospital, it's become a hard habit to break. I wander down to the fiction section, towards the back of the library, scanning the bookshelves for anything that catches my eye. As I do, I look over the corner where Hanako had been the last time I was here, not really expecting anything to come of it. Surprisingly, though, she's there, absorbed in a completely in fairly thick book. I decide against intruding on her like last time and get back to finding reading material. After an discernible amount of time spent perusing the aisles, I finally decide on a couple of books to get and slide them off the shelf. With a minimum of fuss, I quickly walk over to the counter, check out my books and pop them into the bag as I walk out. To my bag. By the time I leave to the main building, sunset isn't too far away. A small trickle of students remain, but the majority have left, presumably to their homes or dorms. I guess I need to buy some supplies. I can't live off cafeteria food and eating out my entire stay here. As I leave for the gate, I make a very loud stretches to try and stave off the tiredness that's accumulated over the week. After passing through and rounding the corner, though, I see a solitary figure walking downhill towards the small town below. The color of her hair and tapping of her cane are unmistakable. I quickly walk up to her, which seems to catch her attention without a word needing to be said. Hi, Lily. She takes a moment to place the voice, slightly adjusting her head to face a bit more towards the source of my voice as she does. Isao? Yep, that's me. She seems to have a good memory for voices. The fact that she actually remembered is a pleasant surprise. Good evening. What brings you here? Once again, she gives me a small polite bow, and once again I reply in kind before realizing I needn't to do so. Just going into town, you? My, what a coincidence. Same thing, eh? I usually go shopping on Fridays. She pauses for a moment, suddenly looking a little lost. That said, Hanako usually comes into town with me. Ah, not lost, but worried. The two seem to keep a pretty close tabs on one another. It's kind of surprising that Hanako would just forget Lily like that. I noticed her reading in the library. She probably just got caught up in a book. She lets out a small sigh of relief. Thank you. She has a habit of doing that. Avid reader? Right. She doesn't like being around crowds of people. So reading away from everyone lets her relax a bit. Although she probably didn't intend it, I can't help but grimace as I recall my first meeting with her. Hardly wanting to bring it up, I remain silent as we quietly continue the walk down the quiet road. Tack, 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 tack. With the road bereft of cars and the students of Yamaku increasingly far behind us, the quiet rustling of leaves and the measured tapping of Lily's cane against the sidewalk are all that can be heard. It's kind of nice, especially compared to the hustle and bustle of where I used to live. Before I know it, I've relaxed so much that a loud yawn escapes me before I can control it. Tired? uh, yeah, been running ragged these past few days. That's an understatement, to be sure. Transferring into a different school would be bad enough. But nothing like this. Well, hopefully everything should settle down for you. The festival's got everyone in a spin right now, and you've been plopped right in the middle of things. For a moment I hesitate, but I give her apparent tolerance for frankness and... But given her apparent tolerance for frankness, I decide to give my full thoughts. I guess Yamaku's kind of different though. I mean, the formality surrounding everything. The isolation around it, not to mention the most obvious difference. It's kind of the whole different mindset, I suppose. I suppose I will get used to it in time. She gives a matter-of-fact nod, apparently pleased with my answer. It feels almost as if she's included me in the flock of students she's shepherding, along with the class of 3-2 and Hanako. Well, not that I mind. It's nice to get thoughts off my chest in any case. Looking on the bright side, one could see it as a chance for a new beginning. You should cherish the ability to make new friends. That's optimistic. Nonetheless, it's good to have a positive attitude about such things, I suppose. I guess that's a good take on it. Walking down the road, she seems to become somewhat unsettled. Before I can ask what is on her mind, she seems to collect herself and speaks up about something else. So, where in town were you going? That's actually a pretty good question. I'd come in to buy food, but the layout of the place is still totally foreign to me. I'd intended to just wander around and see what I could find, but with sunset already approaching and nightfall not far behind, too far away, that doesn't seem very wise. I'm going to have to ask her for directions, again. I was hoping to get some food, but now that you mention it, I don't really know the way. Well now, this is quite lucky. I was just about to go to the convenience store myself. Looks like I'll be in your care again, then. Thanks. Together we walk to the store, my pace carefully slowed to remain beside her compared to my usual walking pace. Hers is quite a bit slower. Not that it's without reason. After what couldn't be more than several minutes, I catch sight of our objective. This town really is pretty small. Without further ado, we make our way inside with a greeting from the counter. Mind if I tag along with you? Usually Hanako would help me, but seeing as she's not here... It takes a moment before I realize what she means. Considering that she wouldn't be able to read any of the labels, shopping without any help would be a big pain for her. That said, I can't shake the feeling that she had this idea since I was coming here. Since I said I was coming here. Sure, it'd be my pleasure. I grabbed 2 well-used red baskets from the small stack beside the entrance, handing one to Lily. She lays it on the ground, putting her school bag in it, retracting her cane and sliding it through the basket handles before picking it back up and in her right hand. Wait, if she doesn't use her cane... Before I can complete the thought, she comes beside me and pinches the cuff of my uniform with her in her slender fingers. Is this alright? Sure. I have no reason not to accept. I can think of worse things than shopping with a pretty girl holding on to me, even if it's out of necessity. We navigate our way through the store, with not one of the occasional passing customer seeming to bat an eyelid. Considering how close Yamaku is, I guess seeing students from there must be entirely normal for the local residents. As we reach each aisle, I quickly check with Lily and find out that she needs what she needs. I grab it along with what I'm looking for and put our items in the respective baskets. I guess this is the same routine she had with and Hanako follow every Friday. She and Hanako follow every Friday, huh? Right. All that's left is the bread, and that should be my shopping done. Do you need anything else, Lily? No, this should be everything. Off we go then. With a quick side trip to the bakery section, we make our way to the registers. The line, thankfully, is almost non-existent. It's not long before we've both paid for our food and are out of the door. As Lily retrieves her cane and extends it to full length, I waste a minute looking upwards at the night sky while holding both our bags. For a moment I try to make clouds with my breath, but the summer's heat doesn't seem to cooperate. Eventually she rights herself, taking a quick stretch before taking her bag and leaving me to my tube. You tired as well? The festival preparations have been complete chaos. Shizune breathing down my neck doesn't exactly help things either. She's only trying to get everything organized. Better now than later, right? I suppose. I'm going to enjoy relaxing in town tomorrow, that's for certain. I guess the festival preparations must be taking their toll on both of them. We walk out into the quiet street. Talking between ourselves as we carry our bags of food supplies from the store. Wait, what's that? I notice the very distinctive figure making its way towards us, silhouetted by the street lamps. For a second I think it's another male student from my class, but as he, or should I say she, gets closer, I recognize her quickly. Rin, what are you doing out so late? Rin? Lily perks her head, looking like she's trying to focus on listening more keenly. It suddenly comes to me that I probably should interpret the scene for her. It's Rin, Tezuka. I think was her last name, from our school. She stiffens at the name and gives a complicated looking expression, something like a forced fusion between composed smile and a painful cringe. Ah, I understand. I guess Lily knows Rin too. Rin turns to look at us, looking terribly out of it. I'm not entirely sure if she recognizes either of us, or at least she doesn't acknowledge it if she does. She looks like a zombie, or a statue. A statue of a zombie? But slowly, some symptoms of understanding seem to light her in her dark eyes, and it's something she must react to. Rin blinks once, very thoroughly. Hello. There's an awkward pause, everyone waiting for someone else to say something. What are you doing here so late? I was wondering about that myself too, just now. Some people asked that just before. I assumed they were wondering the same. I didn't know. They didn't know either. I asked, that's why I'm wondering. That was pretty much it. It's a murderous mystery, without a murder. They were going that way. She turns her face, turns facing to her right in order to demonstrate the direction of the other people. The other people went, as if that was important, then rotates back like a mechanical puppet in one of those overly complicated clockworks. For a person who gives an impression of being the quiet type, Rin really does use a lot of words to say things that don't need a lot to be said. Unsure if she's finished, I say nothing. Neither does Lily, who seems equally robbed of words for the time being. I think that both of us are, in fact, just scared that any recent response might provoke her to continue. Our stupefied lack of reaction doesn't faze Rin at all. She keeps looking at us, expectantly, a calm hint of expression on her blank face. She seems to be that kind of person, always so relaxed. As if bull elephant grade sedatives were flowing in her veins in the place of blood. Do you have amnesia? I don't recall you having anything of the sort, though. I don't think it's that. The other passerby were probably just worried, though you do look really lost, the way you're standing out in the middle of the street. Oh, I see. Maybe I should have taken some other kind of pose in that case. Sorry. I ponder a while whether to or not I should chase this angle further, or just give up for the sake of my own sanity. I decide on the latter. It seems that most of the time it's better to not read too deeply into what Rin is babbling about. Talking with Rin is like playing chess with a supercomputer who does seemingly completely random moves, as if to mock everything you know about chess. It's like that, except with the human interaction. And even if I win, it feels like a losing. Damn, it's just like Kenji said. Even when I win, I lose. It's the power of the girls of Yamaku? Is this the power? I push the thought aside, as too dangerous to consider further. It's probably just Kenji's anti-female propaganda getting to me during a moment of weakness. Yeah, maybe taking another pose might have worked. So anyway, do you have no idea what you're doing here? She frowns, looking extremely displeased at either my question, its consequences, or the answer she's about to give. I do have some idea. I can't tell you what kind of an idea. It sounds like progress, at least. Lily sounds as if she spotted an opening for some kind of discernible normal conversation. I can't really say I share her optimism. Yes, there's some. Definitely. The rest will come later. I'm sure of it. I always have reasons. The ensuing silence kills Lily's hopes all too visibly, and that didn't last long. Rin's, as far as I can tell, unbased. Assurance aside. Unbased. Assurance aside, what should be done? We could just leave her on her own devices, whatever those are. But it's late, and I don't think we'll be getting any thanks. If Rin is found standing here in the middle of the night. Which she probably will, unless she managed to remember what she was doing in here in the first place. As for me, trying to guess what might have been going on in her mind when she decided to embark on this adventure, the chances seem to be on par with winning the lottery. Several times in a row. Lily is oddly quiet too. I'd appreciate some support from the sidelines here, especially if she's more familiar with Rin than I am. But it can't be helped. It seems her familiarity with Rin is exactly why she's staying subdued. So I assumed that you were going somewhere. Not coming back to school. Any idea where? Her eyes widen in shock, and she jolts back in somewhat artificial way, making it seem like an act rehearsed for a situation like this. Are you a mind reader? Is that your disability? How unique. No, what? Why would you think that? You knew what I was doing. It was just an educated guess. We walked this same street in the other direction just before, to get to the store. If you were going to school, we would have met you on the way. Oh. She looks a little disappointed. Like Kenji, Rin appears quick to jump to completely irrational conclusions. Maybe it's something in the water here. And make a mental note to stock up on soft drinks. You know, that's the second time this week that someone's asked me if I was a mind reader. Do I really give up that impression? Rin shrugs her shoulders, which is all the answer I get. You know, maybe you should come back with us to school. Lily interjects just as I'm about to further debunk my alleged mind-reading capabilities. She sounds rather concerned. The paper-thin smile on her face badly disguised that fact. Maybe she came to the same conclusion as I did. For everyone's sake, I decide to let the mind-reading topic drop. It's an entirely insane anyway. Yeah, Lily is right. If you can't remember, there's no point in standing here. Rin considers this rather simple deduction for a moment, then nods. Okay. We start towards the school again, having wasted more time than necessary with this episode. Rin walks along the edge of the sidewalk in her arrhythmic way, like a mix of sleepwalker and rope dancer, while Lily keeps one hand on my shoulder, tapping at the ground with her cane. Tap, step, step, tap, tap, step, step, step. Apart from that, a few fragmented beginnings of conversation, it's quiet. A quiet quite apart from the relaxing one into town, that is. So, how's the mural going? We're going to get bad luck. Never talk about work in progress. I'm sure it will be wonderful. Bad luck. Tap, step, tap, step. She doesn't care to talk about it. Lily's politeness feels out of place. For the first time. Step, step, step. The hill Yamaku rests on top of is surprisingly steep. Going uphill we slow the pace, but I still feel my pulse rising and the breathing getting heavier. Almost there. I can see the gates already. More than that, though, I notice that Lily's hand slightly tightens on my shoulder. Interpreting it as a gesture she wants to ask something, I speak up. Anything wrong, Lily? Resist the urge to say aside from our traveling companion, but only just. For a moment she seems to debate whether she should even bring it up, but goes for it anyway. Is everything alright? Alright? What do you mean? The fact I can't interpret her incredibly vague question puts her off for a second. It's just, you seem unusually tired, I guess. As she brings it up, I notice that my breathing is strangely heavy. The uphill walk has really done a job on me. Lily noticed it all too quickly. Oh, Faith. I don't know this one. I think it's the first one, but I don't know for sure. One I want. Sorry, I'm not in a very good condition. It's alright, I just need to catch my breath. My condition isn't the best these days. Oh. Is that something... Is something that is related to you being transferred here, I mean? She cuts herself off abruptly, maybe realizing that she was a bit intrusive. Her instincts are sharp, though, and while I don't like the subject, it's not like I should lie about it. If it's Lily, I don't mind. I don't think I mind. I'm just a little weak for the time being. Hanako said you looked fairly healthy, so I naturally thought. Lily doesn't finish her sentence again, letting it trail off with a measure of concern. As she furrows her brow, Lily's uncomfortable expression spurs me to say at least something to ease her feelings. It's surprising she is this flustered, considering her straightforward attitude with her own blindness. She must know that not all shared her comfort about such things. No, it's okay. If I guess the best way to put it would be a messed up heart? Arrhythmia. I had a bad heart attack a while ago because of it. I spent most of spring in the hospital. Ended in Yamaku on doctor's orders. She silently nods, her head in acknowledgement. My answer, though, only seems to make Lily furrow her brow even further. She doesn't seem to quite know how to react, given we don't know each other that well. I can't really fault her for it, given I had the same reaction. To my surprise, in a moment's time, her face shows that she comes to some sort of realization. Wait, so the time when Emmy and you collided in the hallway? I grimace slightly. Her ability to connect the dots quite so fast is unexpected. Yeah, I guess I'm a textbook example of why those rules about running in the corridors exist. That was a lot more dry than I intended. Lily visibly shies away from continuing the topic. While I do want to assuage her concern, I don't want to dwell on this either. Don't worry about it. I try to offer a reassuring smile, but I realize the futility. Without knowing this, Lily smiles at me reassuringly, but doesn't say anything further. Arriving at the dorms, Rin stops in front of her mural as if lightning struck her. She had been so quiet for almost all the walk back that I had forgotten she was there. It's Friday, isn't it? Yes, Friday, 8th of June. This is bad. Bad? Why? I think I'm going to go into the fetal position and throw up. Possibly in reverse order. Is something wrong? No, nothing is wrong. It's Friday and nothing is wrong yet. This mural is going to need to be finished by Sunday, so everything is alright. Do you have any drugs or a time machine? This is not good, not good. So she's behind her schedule. Recalling Shizune's exasperation at Rin's carefree attitude several days ago, I don't know what to think. She has left herself open for a "I told you so" unless she can pull off whatever she needs to pull off by Sunday morning. Rin keeps staring at her mural, looking as mortified as she can. Leave me. I'm going to need to work for a while. I glance at Lily, expecting her to share an incredulous look with me as I roll my eyes, but then I realize she's not the one to do that kind of thing. Leave me. We do, of course, not wanting to aggravate her any more than she already is. There's a churching bad feeling in my gut. Rin sure has a knack of making people feel worried about her. She seems like a person who should never be left alone. Maybe we should call someone? She sounded like she was going into shock or something. I'm sure she'll be fine. She's just. How to say? Lady cocks her head a little, trying to find a polite way of calling Rin crazy without calling her crazy. Unique? Yes, a very unique person. I guess you could say that. She giggles at the notion melodiously, nodding in agreement. Sorry about leaving you stranded as you talk to her. I don't really understand her, so I keep my distance. So my guess was alright. Was right. Lily offers a slight apologetic smile, as if she was sorry that her own shortcomings have prevented her from becoming closer to Rin. I'm not one to blame her at all. Lily lets slip a long breath, probably a disguised yawn. I imagine she's as exhausted by all this as I am. I'd better leave now and give these to Hanako. Thank you for the company, Hisao. She smiles then very sweetly at me. It feels different than normal, despite the fact that she seems to be smiling so often. I can't put my finger on what the difference is. It's just different. Relaxed, I'd say. But that's more probably just relief over getting rid of Rin. Maybe. Yeah, good night. And say hi to Hanako for me. I will. Good night. Ooh, bum bum. The students roll into class for the Saturday morning session. Each and every one of them sporting the tired eyes of people who have worked through the night. With only a day left to prepare, I suppose it's not so surprising. Thankfully, thankfully, we only have to suffer through classes until lunch break, and then our time is our own. Mito lurches on into a class in a tired stagger. I suppose students aren't the only people that enjoy their late Friday nights. Without saying a word, he scrawls some page and question numbers on the board and slumps down at his desk. It's completely atypical behavior of him, but it appears that no one in class is going to call him out on it. Wordlessly, the students shuffle their textbooks into position and get to work. Not wanting to break the trend, I do the same. Fatigue has made the class antisocial. Not a peep is heard among the ruffling papers. That can partly be attributed to the two empty seats beside me. For some reason, Misha and Suzune aren't present, probably doing council work for the festival. It's very quiet without Misha present. I wonder if she was born as rowdy as she is, or if she is making up for Shizune's lack of voice. Nakai, can I speak to you for a moment? I'm so engrossed in thinking about Misha that I don't even notice Mutao approaching my desk. Sure. What is this about? It's probably better if we speak outside the classroom. Something about this doesn't sound too good, but I stand up and follow him out into the hallway. Mutao stands Mutao stands in the hallway, scratching his head as he works out what he's trying to say. Not knowing what is going on, I wait silently. So tell me, how are things? Things? I expected Mutao to be a little vague, but this is pushing the limits. You know, things. You've had a week to settle in by now, so how are things? Fine, I guess. I see, and how is your condition? The pause before condition seemed a little unnecessary. I haven't had any problems so far. A brief shimmer of relief passes across Mutao's face. Good, that's good. The school nurse was a little concerned that you might have been pushing yourself a bit too hard. He asked me to keep an eye on you when he couldn't. That makes sense. I'd ask you to don't blow us off so freely. As much as we try to give you the level of education that you would get at a normal school, you do have to realize that you have limits. Our goal is to make sure that you know where those limits are and how to maximize your potential within them. Do you follow me? I guess. I mean, I don't plan on doing anything stupid. Well, that's the start, I guess. So then, on to my next question. How are you finding your studies? I understand you were laid up for a while. We're not too far ahead, are we? I don't really think so. I've tried to keep up when I was in the hospital, so it hasn't been too hard. Without taps his chin and raises an eyebrow as he absorbs this information. Is it so? I suppose there are still students out there who realize the importance of learning. I wouldn't go that far. I was only trying to keep myself occupied in my little life-supported prison. Well, yeah, you've got to keep up with these things, I get, right? That's exactly it. One wrong move and in this world and you're left behind, right? Right. Wouldn't want that to happen. No, you wouldn't. Every week there's a new scientific discovery. Most of them mean nothing to the layperson. But any one of them could be the key to the next big thing. I'll keep that in mind. It's obvious that Mutao's serious talk is over, and he's gone back to his standard, slightly scatterbrained approach to life. I think in hindsight I prefer him this way. He's slightly more predictable in this unpredictability. Well then, I think that's all I really had to say, so let's get back inside, shall we? My relief at that suggestion is insurmountable. Sure, you're the boss, right? Mutao pauses for a moment. I don't think any of my students have ever said that to me before. For an instant, I consider replying this, but something deep inside me tells me to shut my mouth and get back into the classroom. A few of the students jump at the sound of the door, rapidly trying to pretend that they were working on the question on the board. Some don't even bother, their heads are slumped on the desk as they nap. Thankfully, it wouldn't appear that Mutao doesn't even notice them. He returns to his desk and retrieves a scientific journal from one of the drawers. I guess I got to him there. The class returns to a near silence that Mutao and I left it in before our chat. Mixed feelings of tiredness and anticipation buzz around the classroom. Everyone here is either waiting for a chance to rest or a chance to get their last-minute preparations underway. The clock on the wall slowly ticks the remaining class time away, until finally the bells cry out, ending the torment. Before you all leave, I expect the answer for those problems by Monday. The class sighs as one, instantly regretting slacking off, but still acutely aware of the more pressing issue at hand. The classroom empties in a blink as everyone rushes to their last-minute festival preparations. I stay behind and try to quickly finish the question so that I don't have to bother with it over the rest of the weekend. With the festival and all tomorrow. Apart from me, Hanako is the only one left, obviously waiting for Lily. It's weird that Lily comes all the way to our classroom to pick her up. I expect the moving around is at least normally harder for her than it is for Hanako. But it's none of my business, and I naturally don't ask about it from Hanako. Not ask about it from Hanako. Huh? Oh, whoops. Despite the relative proximity of our seats, neither tries to strike up a conversation about that or anything else either. So an oppressive silence falls upon the classroom. Time passes in silence. It's probably just 15 minutes or so, but it feels longer. I turn the pages of my notebook. Hanako turns pages of the novel she's reading. My pencil lets splinters against the paper just when I was about to finish the paragraph. The sound of my irritated sigh and subsequent fumbling around for a sharpener feel like they're breaking the mood in the classroom. Hanako keeps her eyes firmly away from my direction. Before long, Lily's tall figure appears in the doorway. Hanako? Her name is all it takes to make Hanako jump up from her desk and run towards Lily. They talk quietly for a moment, but it isn't long before Lily leaves down the hall and Hanako idles back into the classroom, taking her seat once again. I watch Hanako out of the corner of my eye, out of sheer curiosity, and the idea that the two would be separated. For a couple of minutes she does nothing but sit with her chin in her hand, staring at the desk dejectedly. The boredom evidently becomes too much for her, though, her slender frame reaching into her bag and pulling out a small book. Come to think of it, that isn't the one I saw her reading in the library. She must be quite a fast reader to get through them at this rate. But why would Lily leave her on her own devices? It seems to be quite out of the ordinary, going by Hanako's reaction. That's right. I think Lily mentioned something about going into town today before Rin bumped into us. The thought of that walk makes me look outside. The bright sun and the occasional people wandering around and enjoying the afternoon make me yearn to get out of the school, or at least to do something other than sit here. Giving into one of my worst vices, procrastination, I decide that history is a subject best studied on Sunday, or Monday, or any day other than this day. I give a grunt as I lever myself out of the seat, briefly debating with myself whether or not to hang out with Kenji. He doesn't strike me as the enjoying the nice weather outside with others kind of person. Really, I guess I'll catch up with him later. Changing tacks, I briefly entertain the idea of talking with Hanako, but by the time I look at her, it's vacant. At her seat, it's vacant. She must have left for the library. There's got to be something to do that can kill the time. Walk into town. Okay, new save state. Current scene. Sip. Go for a walk into town, yeah. Following Hanako to the library seems a bit intrusive. There was a reason she left the classroom after all. And that aside, I do want to catch up with Lily. At the very least, I'd like to thank her for looking out for me despite her other obviously taxing duties. I guess I'll walk around town. With any luck, I should be able to find Lily. The exercise will do me good as well. Walking through the school courtyard to the gate, I give a small nod to a couple of passing classmates. The gesture being returned in kind. Even from here, the shouts of the sports club members can be heard. From the sheer volume of the din, the track must be packed right now. Remember what Lily said yesterday about being dropped right into the middle of a busy time for the school. While I'm trying to get my bearings and catch up on study that I've missed, everyone else is doing normal school activities. The feeling of being a foreigner still hasn't dissipated, at least not yet. Well, I guess not everything's bad. This is a private school and that much is easily noticed. When walking around outside, not only are the school grounds huge, but the buildings themselves are immaculate and quite divorced from the dime a dozen concrete blocks of public schools. There's also the fact that there's a much stronger feeling of community here, or at least a friendlier atmosphere. At my old school, it was generally accepted that people would keep to their little clique and be done with it. Eventually I reach the gate and begin to walk down the road into town. Well, that was fairly productive. Having seen a fair portion of the town, even including the houses perched on the hills around the outskirts, I decide to take a walk around the park before heading back. Living in the city all my life, the total lack of smartly dressed businessmen and fashionably dressed girls strikes me as incredibly unusual. All that is to be seen are the odd elderly person shuffling along the sidewalk and assorted busily chatting pairs of middle-aged women outside of small storefronts. Walking along the road to the park quickly distracts me from them, though making me realize that I perhaps pushed myself further than I should have done to see as much as I could. As my breath begins to wheeze and my chest tightens more and more, I give up on the prospect of soldiering on. After a quick glance around the park as I enter, I take a seat on a wobbly old bench that I noticed near a couple of vending machines. For minutes on end, I sit with my head bent over, forcing myself to take deep breaths. I feel more like an old man than a teenager who should be in the prime of his life. The stay in hospital, the surgery, and the medications must be taking their toll on me. Damn it. Eventually, my breathing returns to normal, and the muscles in my chest loosen. Not without a fair measure of relief. I guess this means the end of my little sojourn, though, in any case. There's a cafe on the far corner, so I'll stop by to quench my thirst before heading back. A little bell above the door signals my arrival to an empty counter. For a few moments I stand there waiting, my eyes every now and again drifting from one end of the counter to the other, searching for a service bell. Eventually a door some ways behind the counter opens. The person emerging from it taking me by complete surprise. Yuko? Hi, I had no idea you worked here. I really have no idea how to address her either, given that she's technically school staff as well as apparently a waitress. Yes, She quickly paces up to the counter before flinging her upper half downwards in a over-erected bow. Welcome to the Shanghai. May I have your order? Straight down to business, I see. I don't know. Well, some coffee, please. Yes, certainly. I'll make it right away and bring it to you when it's done. Thanks. Yuko's formality takes me back. She seems to take her job very seriously. Obeying her instructions, I turn around and quickly glance around for a free table. Considering the cafe seems to be empty, this is a simple task to accomplish. As I walk towards a table adjacent to the window, I notice a flash of yellow around one of the table dividers. Sure enough, no more than a glance is needed to ascertain that it's a certain Sato at the table. That said, I don't recognize the suited figure across the table from her. Blonde, fair-skinned, and only a little shorter. She? I think she must be a relative. Since the two are all but silent as the suited figure takes a swig from the cup of coffee, I decide to greet Lily. Some part of my coming here was in order to meet her after all. Hi, Lily. Hisao. Yeah, nice to see you again. The suited girl looks up, noting my uniform with a relaxed smile. Know each other? I guess. It's a good approximation of our relationship as far as I can think of. Care to take a seat? She says this to the air beside me, but the message is clear enough and I take a seat beside her. I suppose some introductions might be in order. Hisao, this is Akira Sato, my older sister. Akira, this is Hisao Nakai, another Yamaku student. Looks like my guess was correct. The newly introduced Akira gives a nod, which I return. What I don't return, however, is the almost analytical gaze with which she looks me over. As she does, Yuko walks up to the table and carefully places the coffee on the table before bowing and taking her leave. Gently bringing my hand to the side of the cup, I realize that it's already at just the right temperature to drink. After taking a sip, the flavor turns to be out just as good as the temperature. Yuko seems to be a lot better at this than being a librarian. I take a good long drink before relaxing into the seat. It takes mere seconds for Akira's examination to come to an end. Apparently becoming quickly bored with the activity, she turns to her sister. So, how's school recently? Oh no. It seems Akira is entirely unconcerned with someone who she doesn't know at all listening to everything she says. Not that I mind, leaving them to their chatting, I sit back and continue drinking pleasantly aromatic coffee. Oh, sounds like it's pretty busy for ya. Then? At least I'm not cooking your meals after school anymore. As they talk, I slowly realize that I'm entirely unable to gauge Lily's emotions through her eyes, as I would for any other person. It becomes slightly unsettling as I become subconsciously focus on that. Whoa, so cold. Weren't you just cooking for yourself anyway? I only ever got leftovers. That's not the point. Are you managing to feed yourself at least? I can cook without blowing myself up. You know. Mostly. That's... It's fine, it's fine. I needed to learn sometime anyway. Ah, Lily! Everyone present is momentarily distracted by Yuko, who places a cup of tea on the table for Lily. Taking the moment to glance at her watch, Akira levers herself off the seat and gives me a quick nod. Well, I'd better be off. It was nice talking to you, Lily. Akira, do you have to leave? Do you have to? Lily looks genuinely mournful at her sister suddenly leaving. It does seem like she might have the wrong idea. Sorry, love. I need to get back to work. They'll be on my neck again if I don't make it back quickly. So informal. Akira's trim and tidy appearance would give anyone the wrong impression of her. Bye, Akira. Come on, don't look so down. I'll be around again soon. See us. With that, she waltzes out of the Shanghai with her hand held high. Lily looks pretty depressed, so I try to make some small talk in an effort to take her mind off of it. She seems nice. We used to live together. But now that I live at school, we hardly see each other. Despite Lily having been quite affable, I still don't really know much about her. In hindsight, it's surprising just how much she extracted from me, really. You used to live together. Was that somewhere around here? It was pretty far south, so the trip to Yamaku was fairly long. With her working hours getting longer and Yamaku being so far away, there was little choice in the end but to move into the dormitories. Well, it explains the chatter about cooking. Evidently regaining her composure, she livens up, at least in part. I take it you're rested now? Sorry? You sounded less exhausted than you did. You sound less exhausted when you did when you first came in. To be able to pick up out my breathing like that, she must have pretty good ears. Yeah, ended up walking all over town, despite only planning on taking a short walk down here. Reminded of my thirst from the walk, I lean forward to take a sip. Without further ado, Lily starts on her cup of strong-smelling tea. I guess I'd better get going back to Yamaku. There's only so long I can stall studying for, and I want to get a good night's of sleep before the festival. Standing up from my seat, I take a coffee-stained cup from the table. You're leaving? Yeah. You going to head back as well? It's getting kind of late. For a moment she pauses before lifting her face over the teacup as if she was looking at me. Yuko, could we have one more coffee, please? Okay, I'll bring it to you right away. That's not subtle. She gives a short giggle at my frank assessment of her maneuver. It's surprisingly childish and carefree given her otherwise collected appearance. In the end, though, I have a little reason to refuse. I refuse, to be honest. I can hardly say no, all things considered. Giving a manufactured sigh, I take a seat opposite of her. Wanting company, then? Hmm, I'd say that's it more than I was wondering. Say that it's more than that I was wondering. Oh, more than that I was wondering. I see. I see in question. Is she? I see she's in questioning mode again. She does seem to be unusually interested in me, or at least curious. Do you have any siblings? Not exactly an unexpected tangent. No, only child. To be honest, the idea of having someone that close makes me a bit envious. Interesting. I raise an eyebrow, which of course goes unseen. The short silence communicates the question well enough. It's just that others have said the same thing before. It's a difficult subject to try and think about objectively, given that I've always had someone like that. I can mostly understand what Lily means, given that it would be hard to place oneself outside of a situation where they've been in all their life. She and her sister must have been must have a pretty close relationship. Talking pains to taking pains to interrupt us as little as possible, Yuko dutifully comes over and places a cup on the table. Lady thanks her and I sit back, taking in this vexing girl in front of me. Despite always seeming to be on her guard and in control of herself, when talking to others she has an almost childlike curiosity about other people. That said, those rare moments she sees to lightly lower her guard are the most insightful into how she thinks. Reaching forward for my drink, I realize something I probably should have noticed earlier. I think I'm starting to become kind of curious about her. Despite making a good pace, it's already nightfall by the time I reach the large iron gates in front of the school. While it's nice to have plenty of time to wander around by virtue of living next to the school, I can't help but get the feeling that very few students actually take the opportunity. Compared to the number of students I see milling around on campus during free time, it's startlingly rare to see anyone around town. Given the large number of accommodations and facilities that the school offers, many of them might simply not see any point in venturing outside, let alone people such as Hanako and Kenchi. It makes me wonder if students like Shizune, Misha, and Lily are exceptions for this, rather than the norm. As I wander back into my dorm room, I continue to compare my old school with Yamaku. As I do so, I begin to be surprised that I managed to get even this used to everything that has happened to me. Ooh, maybe we can finally finish the prologue today. It's the third stream. I've been at it for almost 6 hours and I'm not even out of chapter 1. There's 6 routes. 6, right? Hanako, Lily. No, 5, sorry. 5 routes and 1, like, bad end where you end up with Kenji. I don't know why it's the bad end, since he's obviously the most handsome being in this school, but... Next day, I wake up on feeling a little lightheaded. It's almost noon already. Sleeping late is fine since it's a Sunday and there are no classes. Not just a Sunday though, but the festival as well. From my window I can already see some people at the soba booth slinging noodles onto plates for people, with a craving for low quality food. I throw back a handful of my morning mats and ponder on how I shall spend the day. There will be few exams in the coming week, but I don't consider those as ominous as others, so I'm not too worried about them as I probably should be. With no urgent obligations regarding education, I should be free to spend the day at the festival as I like. Finishing my morning routine, I exit into the hallway, intending to go out and find something to eat. Passing by his door, I decide to see what Kenji's up to today out of impulse. I'm curious if he has any plans, since everyone is doing something. Then again, I could picture him having built a soundproof shelter in his room. Or possibly something like a fort, complete with no girls allowed sign. And with the girls crossed out and body crudely scrawled underneath it. Knocking on his door, which is luckily devoid of any kind of sign, I hear again the unsettling clicking of at least 10 locks being pulled back. The door opens up a crack. Who is it? You're supposed to ask that before you open the door. Oh, it's you. Damn, it's early. It's not really that early. What is it, man? Nothing, just gonna ask you what you're doing today. What you gonna do today? After school is out already. Out where? Why? What? What? Is today special? Why are they there? Who are they? I can hear them. It's loud. Don't tell me. Has the invasion begun? He suddenly looks more alarmed. What day is it, man? Yeah, I guess you can't see the big wooden booths outside and the people selling stuff. What the hell are you talking about? I have my curtains closed at all times to thwart the snipers. It's the festival. You know that, right? Oh shit, is that today? Ah, damn it. I can't believe I forgot. I don't have my fort finished yet. This is bad. This is going to be a very bad day. It's good that you told me, man. There's going to be a bad day. Why? Oh man, they're going to be everywhere. People are outside my window, socializing. Kenji rubs his temples nervously, suddenly looking very ill. It's going to be loud as hell, damn. I was going to go out today, but now it's ruined. Everything is ruined. This is awful. This sucks. What the hell? It really sucks. Now I can't go anywhere. There's nowhere to run. Kenji seems nervous. You could even say he's majorly freaking out. I can't believe this. So that's what today was. Damn, and I couldn't even prepare for it. I couldn't even brace myself, and now it's here, and I can't do anything. You should have told me this earlier, dude. I mean, at least I know, but I could have known earlier. Imagine what I could have accomplished. Sorry, I thought you knew. So I guess you're not going to do anything today? The weather is even good. Yesterday was really windy, so I thought today would be cold, but it's not. It's not though, so there's no reason to just stay inside. Yeah, you should check out the festival. Kenji groans and covers his face with his hands. No, no. I can't do it. They'll eat me alive. They'll eat me alive out there. I know it. That has to be a joke, but he said it in such a straight face. But he said it with such a straight face. Relatively straight. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? We should hang out in here. You can help me build my fort. We might still make it if we work together. I don't know. I'm pretty hungry, so I thought I'd get some food first and then check out the attractions. Your class project seemed pretty cool, and I gave a hand, so with it, so I want to see at least that one, and shit with Lily, I guess. Speaking of that, don't you have any obligations for the project? Are you out of your mind? That blind brother's up to no good. I can feel it in my spleen, man. Her presence is like a dark shadow. That's in the way of my great vision. As expected of blind people. What? Oh. Besides, I thought you were also... He holds up his hand to interrupt me. Only legally. Metaphorically, I can see farther than any man before me has seen. Kenji looks stoically into the metaphorical distance to emphasize his statement, thrusting his chin forward to look manlier. Actually, it's just the corridor of the wall. It's just a corridor wall 2 meters away, but it's all the same. I can see the future of mankind, and it's dark. It's a dark one, unless the threat of women is stifled. They are everywhere. He fingers his scarf nervously, faster and faster, like he's trying to start a fire, and then slowly begins to calm down once the panic attack finishes running its course. I'm going to have to find some place to hide in, a safe haven, and then knock out the lights. Knock the lights out for out of myself, so that I don't have to experience this horrible day. I have the perfect thing for that. I must prepare now. Don't go to the festival. Okay. Later, dude. The door slowly closes with a slow creak, and I don't know how I feel about what Kenji just said. After buying a plastic plate of takoyaki from the stall belonging to the class next to ours, I take a seat in the school gardens and watch people pass as I tentatively nibble away at the rather bland tasting item. I guess I shouldn't complain, it's better than nothing and it didn't cost much. As I look towards the school, watching the people coming and going proves a surprisingly entertaining way of passing the time as I eat. Little children accompanied by parents or grandparents scamper about in the din from event to event. One hand dragging their company and the other bearing an oversized, colorful snack. I can't help but notice the age range among the people who were here is skewed towards the elderly. Something that I had also noticed when I was walking around town. This must be one of those towns where the only people left are those that lived here their whole lives and ardently refused to leave, and those wanting to live out the rest of their days in one of the increasingly few tranquil places. I guess that also goes a way to explain how conservative Yamaku's school culture seems to be. Not that I mind it one bit. I kind of like how calm Yamaku and its surroundings are. The heat, though, is another matter entirely. Sitting in one place for too long has focused my mind on how annoyingly humid it's getting. Now that the hottest part of the day is here. I better get moving if I don't want to... Gah! The sound of the caroling bells takes me completely by surprise. As I stand up, a reaction shared by a few of the other people strolling around as well. The PA system crackles to life after the tolling bells end. Its age shows as the principal makes a barely intelligible announcement of over it, officially opening the festival. That's very much in full swing. It's quite amusing to contrast the pleasant smiles of the older folk against the alternatively pained and bored grimaces of the younger charges. The students, on the other hand, seem to pay it little heed. Nevertheless, as the address finally ends, all are united in polite, if not overly enthusiastic, applause, and then get back to business. Slipping a hand in my pocket to look as relaxed as possible, I casually glance around for something to do. It's somewhat difficult to see very far with all the people around. I decide to fall back on a tried and trusted rule. Go where everyone else seems to be gathering. Right now, that's the school courtyard and surroundings. Throwing the used plate into the trash, I make my way towards the school building. Seeing the number of stalls around the perimeter of the school's building surprises me. Quite a few of the classes must have opted to have multiple stalls. In deciding which to visit, I can catch a sight of a familiar banner with blue patterned border and red text. Oh. Lily's stall is as good as a place to start as any. I'm curious as how it's going, after all. After all of the work she and her class had been doing for it. Stepping up to it, I begin to see why the class took so long to organize everything. Easily twice as wide as many of the other stalls, and with equipment for cooking strewn everywhere, it's closer to an outdoor restaurant than a festival event. As a student in front of me takes a bowl of noodles and leaves, I walk up to the counter. The girl behind it seems quite exasperated and asks me to wait for a moment before she disappears underneath the counter. Seizing the moment, I take a quick glance around. Steam seems to be rising from everywhere as pots and pans simmer away. The most blind of the students are unpacking ingredients while being helped by someone who's probably the teacher of 3-2. It doesn't take long to notice Lily among them, talking with the teacher as she quickly counts out the boxes and packets with her fingers. From her expression and the fact that both she and the teacher seem to be in a state of mild confusion, it appears that there has been some problem in coordination. Before I can stare any longer, the girl behind the counter pops up again, only to look back and ask where the spare change box is. Lily pauses for a moment before she and the girl switch place at the counter, and the teacher quickly walks off somewhere. Sorry about that. We're having a few problems. What would you like? It takes me a second to remember what I came here for. My eyes quickly dart to the side to read the menu sitting on the counter. Oh, I guess some miso soup? Ah, is that Isao? Yep, looks like you're pretty busy. Her face all but confirms that it is as she drops her waitress facade. Somewhere along the line, an order got mixed up. We're trying to fix it now, but it looks like we only have half of what we needed. When serving these smaller portions cover over the problem? It seems like that's what we'll have to do, though I wish we didn't. The fact that A good half of our class is gone doesn't help either. I glanced behind her to see how many people are actually operating the stall. It couldn't be over about 8. I take it that's why your teacher left? That's right, she's going to try and round up a few more of her classmates to help. Hearing the sound of footsteps behind me, I stealthily glanced backwards to see an elderly couple taking a place in line. I guess I'd better stop loitering around and chatting. Here's the money for the soup. Soup, oh right. Coming right up. Lily turns and calls for a bowl of miso soup as I hand over the money for it. Taking the coins in her palm, I can't help but notice how efficiently she counts them out with her long, pale fingers. Eventually, satisfied that I've handed over the correct change, she puts it into a small metal tray. It isn't long before the soup is made and carefully handed to her, after which she turns and subsequently passes it to me. Thanks. I'll come back to drop off the bowl. Thank you, Hisao. Oh, there's one other thing. Have you seen Hanako? Hanako? No, not today. Why? She gives a small sigh of abject disappointment. It's okay. I was just wondering what she was doing for the festival. You'll come back when you're done, then? Sure, I'll keep an eye out for Hanako too. Thank you, Isao. I walk off from the stall and find a seat, carefully cradling the steaming wooden bowl in both hands. Compared to the dumplings from before, this is quite nice. A little cool compared to what it probably should be, perhaps, but the flavor is enough to cover for that reasonably well. As I drink, I can't help but feel somewhat guilty for not being as involved in the festival as the others. It can't really be helped, considering I was dropped into the school only a week ago, but it still weighs heavily on my mind. That and the fact that a few students don't really seem to be enjoying the festival as much as the visitors. Eventually, I finish my bowl and leave for the stall to drop it off. Considering that there seems to be no line at all, I take my time walking up. It seems the teacher's mission paid off. There are now over a dozen students helping doing much of the unpacking. Despite most of them seeming quite relaxed as they work, Lily still appears to be somewhat stressed. Right, I know what I'll do. Even if it's just one person, I'll make the festival more enjoyable for her. As I place the bowl on the counter, I call out to Lily. Ah, Isao, you brought it back. Yeah, here. I slide it into her hands and she takes it over to someone who is apparently on cleaning duty. Considering that I didn't see them here before, it's probably a penalty for their tardiness. Hey Lily. She perks up and returns to the counter as she hears my voice once again, realizing that I'm still here. Want to go see some more of the festival? She puffs her cheeks disapprovingly, but it looks kind of cute. And in a complete contradiction to her usual reserved nature. It takes a few seconds for me to get what she's taking issue with. Oops. I didn't mean to. She giggles at me, exposing her teasing for what it is. You're still not used to the school, are you? She got me. Still, I kind of need to stay with our stall. It's taken until just now to get everything unpacked. I guess her reluctance shouldn't be overly surprise. Shouldn't overly surprise me, considering how much work she put into this. Everything seems to be running fine now. Everything seems to be running fine now. Though besides, you've got extra help on hand anyway. A boy in the middle of cooking some soba noodles turns towards us grinning. Hey, go on, Lils. You've earned yourself a break. We can hold down the fort for you, for now. If you say it's okay, then I suppose so. But if you need any help, then we'll call you. Go on, we'll be fine. Lily finally gives up her resistance as she waves a spatula. As he waves a spatula at her, she feels her way around the back of the stall and picks up her cane on the way. I guess the first thing we should do is look for Hanako. Lily seems kind of worried about her, and I doubt she'd be the kind of person to enjoy milling about in the clouds like this all alone. So, I guess we should search for Hanako? Where to first? Both of us go quiet for a moment to think. Maybe she's in her dorm? I doubt. She doesn't keep too many things in there, so she'd have nothing to do. Ah, the library. As good a place as any to search for an avid reader, I suppose. The library, is it? We'll check there first then. Aside from the muffled sounds of the crowd seeping in from outside, the inside of the school seems almost deserted. In order to make sure everyone had enough room, I guess all the events were organized to be held outside, on school grounds. They are definitely quite large by any other school standards. It's nice and quiet in here, isn't it? Yeah, much nicer than the hustle and bustle outside. We take our time and slowly walk through the first floor of the school, eventually reaching the stairs to the second floor. I can't help but notice how Lily anticipates every door and obstacle, her cane remaining still in her hand, skating along the hallway railings. You really know the school well, don't you? She smiles and nods straight ahead. I've been here for a few years now, so I know where everything is. The dorms still trip me up though. Sometimes I haven't been there as long and they're not as well laid out as the main building. If I'm remembering right, they used to be unused buildings before being renovated as dormitories. And that explains why the male and female dorms look different from the outside and why their rooms seem kind of unusual for sleeping quarters. I'd assumed that she'd been living in the dormitory since she began attending the school, but now I'm reminded of what she said yesterday. That's right, you mentioned that before. I assumed that most of the students here lived in the dormitories once they enrolled. A lot of them seem to, in any case. Lily's expression becomes somewhat harder to read, my question evidently touching on a delicate point. Well, how should I say? Everyone has their reasons. Something tells me that one of those with reasons is Hanako, hence her tiptoeing around the answer. My own predicament is yet such another case. I guess it's a choice everyone here would have to make for themselves, or in my instance, have made for them. It can't be helped, I suppose. At least Yamaku itself seems like a nice place. It's good to hear you say that, although... say that. I thought you were coming to dislike it. What about you, though? My reversal of Lily's statement takes her by surprise. I've been here for a while, so... It's not just that. You seem pretty depressed about Akira. Hmm? What's with that look? Akira's taken. Sorry, Hisao. Lily never sees how fast my palm meets my face at her sly accusation. Hey, I was worried about you. That's no way to respond to concern. She gives her amused grin. We round the corner of the hallway and enter the library. As we do so, it isn't hard to spot Hanako, considering that the room is completely devoid of anyone else. Given there are no staff around, I guess there's no need to heed the usual library rules. I call out to her. Hey, Hanako! Hanako is here? As she hears our voices, Hanako's head flicks up from behind the book, probably the same one she'd been reading on Friday. Isao, Lily. Just thought we'd drop by. Lily just managed to escape from the noodle stall with a little help. That wasn't really an escape. Hanako gives a small giggle, briefly surprising both of us. I just thought that Lily might not be enjoying the festival. Well, now we can enjoy it together, right? The two nod happily before we set out of the library towards the festivities. I hand over some change to the girl behind the counter and take the 2 styrofoam cups of tea. I try to accentuate my bow a bit to cover for the fact that she's quite obviously deaf. Come to think of it, I probably should have asked for help instead of leaving those two in the gardens while I bought my drinks. Trying to juggle with 2 cups of hot tea for them and a can of coffee for myself out of the vending machine isn't exactly easy. With some careful maneuvering, though, I managed to keep everything stable and upright as I walk over to the bench where Lily and Hanako are sitting and chatting. It's actually quite a nice place, lit only by the moonlight. It's tucked away some distance from the main events. Compared to how hot it had been during the day, this spot is also pleasantly cool by now. Not that it matters all that much. Most of the visitors have moved to areas that either closer to the fireworks or higher on the hill in order to view the display apparently planned. Welcome back, Isao. Arrears are good. I'm not exactly close, and even Hanako hadn't noticed me. Here you go. Sorry it's instant, but that's all they had left by now. Hanako gingerly takes the cup. Sorry. Hanako gingerly takes the cup from my right hand, and I gently place the other into Lily's outstretched hands. Did you enjoy the festival then, Hisao? Yeah, it was pretty fun. An honest answer. Much of the food may have been somewhat subpar, but it was a lot of fun in the end, especially with Hanako and Lily. In fact, I think those two may have enjoyed themselves even more than I did. With both Lily and me around, much of Hanako's withdrawn nature around others died down, enough for her to be enjoying herself. As we sit... Ow, my eyes. As we sit drinking, the whistle of the first firework rings out before it explodes into a vibrant shower of blue against the night sky, heralding the beginning of the end for the festival. Enthusiastic shouts can be heard from the crowds gathering around the school grounds celebrating them. For minutes on end, Hanako and I watch the fireworks overhead, as Lily blissfully listens to them with her eyes shut. Red, green, yellow, star-shaped, circular, patterned, and all manner of shapes and colors fill the air, one after another, and dance across the sky. No place near where I lived without such a lavish display. Festivals like this were a thing of the past in such a metropolitan area. Metropolitan. To be seeing such a sight with these two, it's probably the happiest I've been in a long while. Ow. Stop. Fucking. So that's it. The festival's ending. Yeah. She gives a delicate, wistful sigh. As much as I might complain about all the stuff we have to do, it's still sad that we'll have to graduate before the next Yamaku festival. I walk forwards and stand beside Lily, gently resting a hand on her shoulder. Don't worry, we still have Tanabata later in the year, right? You're right. It would be nice to go there when it comes. Minutes of silence pass, with only the blast of the fireworks to be heard. Seeing these two reminds me of those words of advice Lily had given me as I walked into town together. Cherish the opportunity to make new friends, huh? Hey Lily. She turns her head slightly to show that she's listening. Hanako's gaze still firmly fixed on the Technicolor fireworks bursting overhead. Would you mind if I join you two for tea now and again? The smile on her face is more than enough to see her answer. It would be a pleasure, Hisao. Oh. Act 2. The Past. And that's where I'm gonna leave it. Like I said, trying to get out of Act 1 at least. That's like the introductory act to every character and where you decide which route you're going. Obviously, I'm going the Lily route. Create new save date. Yes. Ah. There we go. Well, such a lovely game. It's been a while. I enjoy it a lot. It's so comforting and good story with a bit of drama. Okay. Oop, there we go. But anyway, um, tomorrow is gonna be Dead by Daylight. New chapters out, new killer, new survivors, new map, everything. So that's gonna be enjoyable. Yes. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm a bit tired. So thank you all for watching. I hope you all have a lovely evening. Sleep well, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.